And the cats are playing with the tree. Hey you guys, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me talking about the books that make me happy. And these are books that either are actually meant to make you happy, like haha funny happy, or they're just books that make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside because of the memories they hold and all that fun stuff. I did try to include books that I don't always talk about, so let's get into it. So in no particular order, that's not even an accent, Therese. In no particular order, the first book on this list is The Mortal Instrument City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This is the first book to the Mortal Instrument series, and overall really the first book that was published in the Shadowhunters universe. This follows Clary Frey as she kind of just wants to go clubbing one night and finds out that she can see demons and this whole other world underneath everything, and finds out that she's not human but a shadow hunter, and now she has to figure out what that means with her mom missing, and it's a very overwhelming time for her. But I love this book. This was the first book that introduced me to the Shadowhunter series, and I had been very hesitant before to enter the Shadowhunter world, but I finally bit the bullet and read the books, and I fell in love with all of them, and it makes me so happy inside to reread the series every now and again. Literally, if I'm in a weird writing slump, I reread this book. Like, even if it's a day, or like I read the first few chapters, I always do. If I need suggestions or like figure out how a fight scene should work, I read the book. I read scenes from the books where there are fight scenes. If I need to figure out how to start a chapter, like the first chapter of the book, a book I'm writing, I go ahead and read the first scene of this book. I'm not saying that all my scenes have some kind of inspiration. I like the sleeves. I'm just like, enjoy. Have some kind of inspiration from the books. But for some reason, they always help me out, and I just love reading them so much that I always gravitate toward the first book. And my friends Andrea and Lisa and I will be rereading the entire Shadowhunters universe for the rest of the year, leading up to March when the second Chain of Gold book comes out. So I get to be back and see all my babies again, and oh, it's gonna be a good time. And the cats are playing with the tree. The next book is actually a comedy book / a satire, and that is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. This is the first book to the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy and follows Rachel Chu as she and her boyfriend Nick go to Singapore for Nick's best friend's wedding. And there Rachel finds out that Nick is not only one of the most eligible bachelors in Singapore, but he is also filthy rich with old money, and Rachel doesn't necessarily fit that mold. I love this first book. I think the first book honestly is a wonderful satire on kind of Asian culture and their love for materialistic items and money and all this stuff. And if you have grown up in a very Asian household or have Asian friends who have very Asian parents, then you kind of understand where this satire comes into. I think it's pretty hilarious. It's so outlandish and so out there that it's just an enjoyable and fast-paced read. I think I read this book in 2 days, and I actually ended up throwing this book once. Like, I forgot where I was in the book, but I was reading it after I had finished The Song of Achilles, because I was reading this book and had The Song of Achilles on my lap. I think I was waiting to film or something, and something happened in this book, and I just threw the book. And it was both like something that just kind of made me upset, but then I like rushed to the book and picked it back up and read it. It's such a fun read, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a quick laugh, some random study on Asian culture and kind of the outlandishness of it all at some points, as well as a very sassy narrator, or rather footnotes. The next book I have mentioned on this channel a couple of times, and that's because I read it recent December, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This is a new adult romance novel following these two boys, Alex Claremont Diaz and Prince Henry. Alex's mom is the first woman president of the United States, and during re-election year, he and his family go over to England to celebrate the royal wedding. There, Alex kind of causes a commotion that the media starts to misconstrue as him and Henry being enemies. So in order to avoid an international scandal, the two of them pose as best friends on social media and eventually fall in love. This book honestly was such a funny book. Everyone was talking about how funny it was. Going into it, I was like, you know what, people say things are funny and I don't always laugh at them. So when I read this book and I was genuinely laughing out loud and had a hard time putting it down, I think that means it a lot, because I genuinely do not laugh when it comes to certain books. Like, I'll think a scene is funny, but I'll never be like out loud, ha 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 ha. It's always like, oh, that was funny. But this one had me giggling, this one had me like laughing, crying at some points, crying at other points. But I genuinely enjoy this book, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a good laugh. It's gay, and it's just, oh, I think it's a cute new adult romance, and we need more LGBT new adult romances. And it's a rom-com too, so like, I'm still staring at the viewfinder, so I'm sorry, I'm just a vain human being. Quite literally, I see my reflection and I'm like, ooh mama. The next book on this list is actually a middle grade novel, and that is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Percy Jackson series, and kind of the Percy Jackson universe. This follows Percy as he finds out he is a demigod, and he's sent away to Camp Half-Blood, where he tries to figure out kind of who his parents are, while also trying to figure out who stole Zeus's lightning bolt, while he is being framed for stealing said lightning bolt. I think this is a good book. It's such a fun and quick-paced read, and Percy's witty remarks are honestly the highlight of this entire series. Aside from other things, obviously. But Percy in the first book, his like remarks, his wit is honestly what makes this book makes me laugh. And I do mean laugh out loud, haha, not like, that was funny. I genuinely enjoy reading from Percy's perspective. He's such a funny narrator, and he finds ways to make kind of darker topics a little lighter, especially given that it is a middle grade novel. I highly recommend this book, and I really need to finish this series. I'm like one away, but sadly everything is closed, and I bought all of my Percy books at a used bookstore, and I would like to finish that out all in the used bookstore, so what are you gonna do about it? The next book I have mentioned a couple times on this channel, and that is a graphic novel, and that is The President Dressmaker by Jen Wang. This is, I believe, a middle grade graphic novel following Frances, a seamstress who's trying to make it big. When she gains the attention of Prince Sebastian, she is then invited to be the royal seamstress, and finds out that during the day Sebastian is Prince Sebastian, but during the night he is Lady Crystalia, an amazing model who wears these extravagant dresses. And as the story progresses, we find Frances torn between wanting to keep her friendship with Francis, but also wanting to grow her career as a seamstress, which is what she's always wanted. This is such a quick and fun read. There's so many cute little messages here, and the relationship and the commentary about friendship and gender identity is such a fun thing to read. I honestly love this book so much. It's something that makes me warm and fuzzy inside, because I just think of all the little kids who will be suggested this book, who will read this book, who have maybe been struggling with it or don't understand gender as well as they should, and get the chance to get this in a very simple manner, as well as the warmth and fuzziness that comes with everyone accepting Sebastian. I highly recommend. It makes me warm and fuzzy inside, and it's such a nice little break from everything that I've read whenever I think about this book. Like, I don't even have to reread the book. I can just look at the cover or see the spine, and I just get all warm and fuzzy inside. The next book that's on this list should be no surprise, and that is The Selection by Kiera Cass. This is the first book of the Selection series, and it follows America, who puts her name in a kind of bachelorette type situation where 35 girls are chosen to be a suitor for the prince, and the world kind of watches as they move along through the process. It's like a weird mix of the Hunger Games and The Bachelor, just without the bloodshed, though if you've watched The Bachelor, I'm assuming you understand that there is a little bit of bloodshed in there. I haven't seen The Bachelor, but I've seen bits of it, so there's some bloodshed. This is honestly one of my favorite books to reread. It's such a guilty pleasure of mine and makes me happy and warm and fuzzy inside, not only because it's such a quick and fast-paced read, and Maxon as a love interest is such a yummy love interest, but also because I brought this book with me, this one specifically, to Ireland, and I have a lot of memories of me reading the first 3 books in the series on the bus, going to where we needed to go, during my breaks in class, on the way to class sometimes, in bed, after a long day, hanging out with my friends. There are so many great memories within the series, and I hold it so dear to my heart because not only is it a guilty pleasure, but it's also such a really good to remind me of Ireland and a place where I truly felt at home for like the first time in years. The next book is also another book that I have mentioned a couple times but not too often, and that is Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is a young adult high fantasy romance with girls. These 2 princesses, Mare and Denna. Denna has been betrothed to Mare's younger brother for her entire life, and when she comes to the kingdom to marry him, she finds herself falling in love with his sister. On top of that, there's an assassination attempt somewhere and lots of layers. This is one of my favorite books to reread. It makes me so warm and fuzzy just because it's one of the first high fantasy novels, YA high fantasy novels that I read with a happy ending for an LGBT couple. And also just because Mare and Denna's love is just so pure and so warm and so healthy that it warms my heart that it's in a high fantasy setting, but then also we get to see that romantic relationship. Why are you crying, Sherman? Sherman? Squeaky toy. Yes. Uh-huh. The last two books on this list are actually by the same author, and the first one is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This is the first book to, I believe, a trilogy following Simon Snow, who is, by all accounts, the worst chosen hero. He is chosen from birth to save this world from this bad guy, and he doesn't really know how to do it. Even his roommate, who is, by all accounts, very evil and a vampire, says that he is the worst chosen one of all time. I enjoyed this book just because the world and kind of the outlandishness of it, this parody of Harry Potter, was very hilarious to me and very, very cute. I like the relationship and kind of building up to it and the angst. I think it's just a fun, quick-paced read, and if you're looking for something to remind you of Harry Potter, but maybe you're still a little bit mad at a certain author who may have written Harry Potter and can't bring yourself to open the books without being kind of angry and hurt at all the things that they have said in the past, and you're still healing from that now trauma, even because you had so decided that Harry Potter was like the love of your life, you probably can go ahead and read this. I think that it's very fun, it's nice and LGBT, and it's a nice, I think, mix of urban fantasy and high fantasy, and you won't get that lost with the magic system, I don't think. The last book is again by Rainbow Rowell, and that is Fangirl. This is the book that started it all with the Carry On series. This follows Kath as she enters her first year in college and finds out that she's kind of struggling a bit. She wants to just sit down in her dorm room and write fan fiction for Simon Snow as the series comes to a close, but she also finds herself wanting to kind of enjoy her life and can't find the middle between the two. I say this makes me happy just because I wish I read this book when I was going into college, primarily because I was in Kath's shoes, only instead of her who chose to kind of grow up and out of it, I kind of got sucked into it, which isn't a bad thing per se, but there were definitely instances where I could have gone out instead of stayed at home and write fan fiction. But we're not going to talk about that. I think that it's such a cute and quirky read. It's just a nice coming of age story, and it just touches on kind of the things that make me happy about fan fiction and the fan fiction community before, you know, y'all got mean. But that is it for the books that genuinely make me happy and warm and fuzzy inside. There are definitely more books, as you guys can tell by the shelf and the other shelf and the bin behind me. There are a lot of books that genuinely make me happy, but I wanted to compile a list of quick-ish reads that would be simple for you guys to get through during these times and just help you guys out somehow. But if you guys have any books that make you happy, or if these books make you happy, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts and recommendations. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. My social media will be down below for you guys if you want to see me on social media screaming about the current books that I'm reading. But until next time, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys in a couple of days for my next video. Bye!